Michelle Kittrell, and currently I work as a talent manager for a company called Industry Entertainment, and it's a bicoastal management company in New York. It is just talent based. In LA, it's also lit based as well as talent. So I've been doing that for, I guess, like the last 4 years, I guess.
Okay.
I still go around and teach and try and motivate young actors. But of course, you and I know each other because we performed back in the day.
Joseph.
So that's right. So, having grown up as a singer, dancer, actor type, this was just going into management was just a continuation of my love for the industry.
Exactly, which I was about to ask you as well too. I have a great question. Who inspired you to become a performing artist? Because I know you've been doing this for a very long time, but who inspired you? Was it one specific person? Was it family members? Was it a show? What inspired you to get into this business?
Debbie Allen and Gregory Hines.
Yes.
Period. Yeah, I just like I remember seeing Debbie Allen like on Fame, of course, as a young girl, and then my big forte in dance was tap. So Gregory Hines was the guy.
Yes.
And also, I grew up in a time where hoofing was not necessarily so popular, but seeing the rhythmic type tap, and of course, being exposed to say Young Glover and all the other greats.
Yes.
I was lucky enough to have a teacher whose name is Bo Wagner, who was also very well versed in the rhythmic tap, and I thank God for my mother and her support. She was able to, with recommendations from other people, I found him, and he single-handedly changed my life. But it was because of Gregory Hines and Debbie Allen that I was really hook, line, and sinker.
Wow, that's awesome. So when did you start your professional career as a performing artist? I think when we worked, you were not even 20 years old. Is that correct? You were
Yes.
young. You were super young, in the business. So can you tell us how you booked your first big gig? Whether it was a off Broadway show, Broadway, national tours, and how what that meant to you as a young performer, and then now looking back, how it was able to sustain you.
Well, I not unlike where you guys are in Philly, that whole Jersey area. I am from Atlanta, which also had a huge amount of resource as far as theater, commercials, print work, and that same teacher, Bo Wagner, that I spoke of earlier, he created a performing arts center that really sort of incorporated all those elements of dance, competitive dance, as well as singing and acting, and it was just all about everyone getting lots of information about all the different things you could do. And I was lucky that while a healthy amount of competition, I think, is always a very good thing,
Yeah.
we, as young as kids, we always sort of supported each other. So we were always telling each other about, oh, I heard about this audition. You want to go together? So it was more like as friends, like let's go have this experience together versus I want to get something over you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I was lucky for that experience, and because of that performing arts center, I started auditioning at a very young age. So um, two things happened. My first professional job where I actually started getting paid was when I was in about seventh grade. There was a professional children's theater group that toured around called the Atlanta Workshop Players. And it was what was called the tour group. And Atlanta Workshop Players, for anybody who's in Atlanta, still exists. So you should still look up Lynn Stallings.
Awesome.
And she still is dedicated to really sort of supporting, encouraging the arts in young adults. But at that point, kids auditioned and they created original works, and we would go around to various schools and perform, and we got paid. And so that was technically my first audition that I booked as a professional, and I did that starting in seventh grade all the way through senior in high school. Like I ended up choreographing for the shows.
Awesome.
My involvement grew and grew as I got older, and it was I learned a lot through that experience. But in that time, I also booked my first national commercial.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just sort of happened from there. And I was always very serious about it. There was never a question about what I wanted to do in my life.
Right.
But it wasn't it it wasn't ugly. Like I feel like sometimes young adults, kids, you feel like it's like if I don't get it, this like I mean, it's not. It was never cutthroat. I guess is what I'm saying.
Right.
It was always just something I loved, something my mom supported, but was sort of in the background with. She didn't want me to get anything because of her specific involvement. It was all about me earning everything. And my friends, it was the same thing. So, my dance partner that I grew up with doing competitive dance and whatnot, we are still very good friends. She and I actually moved to New York together.
Yes.
So it was a very loving, supportive situation, which I'm so eternally grateful for now, especially because I find, especially in management now, you see just how do or die it feels.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's a really wonderful thing to take it seriously and do your work and be professional. But at the same time, you are children, you are young adults, like you should enjoy life in the
Exactly.
many different aspects that you can enjoy it.
See, that's so important too, for you to be able to share that with all of us and for the viewers that we have in this area. For you, I'm thankful for you and what you do. I'm really excited about that. So, okay, for my students, for those of us listening, you heard what she said. You have to be passionate and you have to love what you do. So, and it's always
Well,
great.
and I want to interject real quick too, because I think one reason why sometimes people get a little they stop finding the joy
Mm-hmm.
is that they stop. You need to keep your blinders on. Your path is not someone else's path.
That's right.
And what I find that when people start to get frustrated, desperate, cutthroat, whatever, it's because they start comparing themselves to others.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter if you're 10, if you're 15, if you're 25,
Right.
if you're 35. The point is that everyone has their own journey. And
Definitely.
you have to be really careful about comparing yourself too much to others, because it that will absolutely drive you crazy, and you will find such little enjoyment in the gifts that you've been given that it just won't even make it worth it.
Wow, and that's important. I have this thing I'll show everybody. I always say it says I don't know if you can see it. It says "Do you, boo,"
I
and
like
that was when I was on a TV show the year before last, and Jennifer Lopez's choreographer had a chance to be mentored by her, and she said, "Do you, Renee? Do you? Don't worry about anybody else." So my students say, "Do you, boo?" So I say to them, "Do you?" God only made one us,
yeah, it's true.
and you can't try to, like you were saying, try to be everyone else and compare ourselves, because we're all on a different journey at a different time. And guess what? When it happens, it's gonna happen.
That's
and
right.
and that to me is exciting. So for those of you that are younger, that are listening to this interview right now, that are watching us, Michelle has some amazing nuggets that she's given to you freely, and I really value her and her opinion, and she's always looking for great talent, so you never know who you are going to meet. You never know.
Sure.
Now, Michelle, I wanted to ask you as well too, how did you start your transition between being on the stage to being behind the scenes or backstage and or managing the artists that you manage now? And please also share with us some of the people that you are managing.
Well, it started because when I was on the road with Footloose,
Okay.
um, I I started to find that I was ridiculously interested in negotiations, in
You were always
uh,
very sharp and like, all right, what's going on? You were always
yeah,
very inquisitive.
yeah, and just making sure everybody was getting what they deserved. I was an equity deputy, which
Mm-hmm.
is an amazing thing. Got me in trouble a few times, but totally worth it. Um, I joined the Equity Council. I was part of the production contract negotiations. I took it all very seriously, and I really liked it. I was able to use the other side of my brain. I actually had an agent years ago who I'm still good friends with, who's a manager now, and he told me at one point, he goes, "You are the only client that I have that I'm nervous to call to talk about contracts." Because I would always ask the questions, not to be a jerk or anything, just
Mm-hmm.
asking the questions. It wasn't, this is what it is. Okay, great, sign me up. I was always inquiring about various things. Um, and so what I realized is, in my desire to also look at the bigger future for myself, I was lucky. I did numerous Broadway shows, numerous tours. I, lived in various countries and whatnot. It was incredible experience. I started thinking about, well, is this what I want to do when I get married, when I have kids? Sort of real life questions.
Mm-hmm.
And because I had this other passion, it seemed like the natural progression. Now it took me 10 years to actually go for it. Because I really wanted to make sure that when I transitioned that I was ready to stop performing. I
Okay.
never wanted to be that, agent or manager where people are like, "Oh, my agent just gave up being an agent because she wanted to go back to Broadway," or, I never
Yeah.
wanted to be that. So I made sure it was all out of my system.
Okay.
And so that's what I did. And, I had a couple of agenting jobs before I landed at industry entertainment. Um, and it's been great. I guess it's been about 5 years since I gave up performing. My last Broadway show was Legally Blonde.
That's right.
And
Now,
I was in,
were you also the dance captain on that? Because I know you dance captain quite a few shows. Yes.
yes, I was a dance captain on that show as well as Hairspray. I understudied three roles. I was on stage. I was a sorority sister and the DA. But it was a great experience, and it was truly one of the highlights of my career. And I ended up leaving the show before it closed because I really wanted to make a transition on my terms. I wanted the choice to be mine, and I wanted to be in my power. And I did know that while no I had no thoughts that I was going to go back to performing. I knew that that could always happen.
Uh
So I was
huh.
like, you know what, let's do it now. I'm gonna go for it. And one thing led to the next, and it was just supposed to be. So it was great. I've landed at industry. I've been here almost 4 years now. It's fantastic. I love it. We work with everyone from developmental clients.
Okay.
Our youngest client is 13
Awesome.
to clients that you would know from TV, Chris Maloney, Victor Garber, Callista Flockhart, um, lots of people. We represent the Tony Award winning actor Billy Porter.
Yeah, I know Billy.
So we sort of run the gamut, and we have a lot of our clients that do TV and film, but of course we're in New York, and both my boss and myself come from the theater, so we have a huge appreciation for the theater, um, and in fact, when I leave, I'm going to the theater myself. So